How's it going, guys? My name is Tavarish, and today we're taking a deep look into the drivetrain that I just pulled out of my $11,000 Bentley Continental GT. We're going to see what's wrong with it, and we're going to see if I can get away with not ordering a lot of expensive parts. Spoiler alert, that's not going to happen. So if you guys are new to my channel, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoy it, especially now that I have this engine out of that car. It has been an ordeal, and you guys saw it all. It took around 4 to 5 days to get this engine out, and mainly because I didn't know what I was doing. It did take a lot longer than a regular mechanic would do, just because I didn't have the skills necessary. Well, I learned the skills along the way. So a lot of you have actually been asking, how did I figure all this stuff out on my own? Well, I wish there was some sort of resource that I could go to and kind of learn these things before going whole hog on an engine swap like this. Thankfully, a place like that exists for a wide variety of subjects, and they are actually today's sponsor. I'm talking about Skillshare. So if you guys are new to Skillshare, it's an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and basically anything you want to get better in. Premium memberships give you unlimited access so you can join the classes and communities that are just right for you to set and achieve your most ambitious goals. Like all the cars that I have. And we'll finish. I've actually been taking Thomas Frank's Productivity Masterclass to get every one of my projects in order to make sure that I get them done on time. So if you want to fuel your curiosity, your creativity, or even your career, Skillshare is the perfect platform to keep you learning and thriving. So click the link in the video description below to join the more than 7 million creators learning with Skillshare. And the first 500 of you guys will get a 2-month free trial, and an annual membership only costs $10 a month after that. I mean, can you put a price on learning? Like, you probably can. $10 is quite reasonable. So let's begin up here, and let's do some automotive archaeology. It's a little bit dark, and there seems to be a lack of engine, and there seems to be a lot of dirt on the floor. This dirt actually just came off the side of the car. It's just packed in there. You can, ooh, man. So this all will need to be steam cleaned or something. You guys can let me know in the comments how to get this scale off, like this really packed on dirt. I mean, I could just use a wire brush or something, but all that needs to come off. I do see a little bit of a leak up here for the steering rack. It looks like one of the bolts is not there, so that's great. Also, that looks not good. So maybe I need a new steering rack, or at the very least, I'll need some fittings because they seem to be leaking. But coming down here, you can see what the problem was with the MAF. This is the mass airflow sensor plug, and I have ordered a new one of these. These are actually just a few bucks a piece, and you just have to wire them in. They're a stock Volkswagen part, so it's not that bad to order. But the rest of it, there's a lot of bespoke parts. Number one is this. This is the intercooler, and this cost around $400 used. I could get a new one, but sourcing a new one would take a long time. So I found one used on eBay that was in good condition, and I'm also going to probably paint it or something just so it doesn't have this corrosion on it. I think these are metal cores instead of aluminum, but actually let's see if they're steel. Okay, they're not steel, so I was wrong. These are aluminum, so I guess they're just oxidized. I don't know what happened here. It seems like it's just Russia doing Russia things. Following this around, you'll see the suspension, and the suspension ain't in bad shape, but but it's also not in great shape. So all this is gonna need to be just cleaned up a lot. I'm gonna have to take off these brackets and put them right here in my sandblaster, which I just got working, this Harbor Freight sandblaster. I do like it a lot, so we're gonna see what this thing can do in a little bit. But you can see the brakes, which are massive. These are some of the biggest brakes on any car that I've had ever. Let me show you how big these brakes are. So this is the rear rotor, and the rears usually are the smaller calipers and rotors. You can see there's only a 1-piston caliper, which is a little bit odd, but it's like a giant 1-piston caliper. So I have my ruler right here, and it is right around 13.5 inches in the rear. And in the front, oh boy, this is gonna be there, and that is almost, wow, almost 16 inches. That's like a large pizza. So those are some of the biggest rotors I've ever seen, and I had to order new ones because in this car they have this weird side effect of when the pads wear down, the pads are actually in okay shape. When the pads wear the rotor down and the rotor isn't resurfaced, they create this lip. The lip is a lot more prominent on the engine side of things, but this lip is something that would either need to get machined out or I just get a new whole set of brake rotors. These, I don't know how old they are, and they do look pitted, and they don't look very good, so I'm just getting a whole new set of cross-drilled and slotted. Now, coming down here, there was actually a mouse or someone living in here, and he took a chunk out of this cloth, and actually it's not too bad. You can see the galvanization. This is what you would call a body in white. This is like a primer. This is a layer that they put on top of the metal when it's going through its painting process. They don't paint this part, obviously, but oof. Ugh, that's not very good. But let me show you the engine and what I need to do and why this is going to potentially destroy my bank account. So finally, we're here. This is a 6-liter W12 with twin turbos. This was the only engine in this configuration made for any car. I know they did use a W12 for the Phaeton. They did use it for that car, but it was naturally aspirated and didn't have these turbos, one on this side and one on that side. Now, when I first got the car, it did give me a lot of codes for the turbo sensors, and turbo pressure is too high but too low, and there's a lot of stuff going on with this turbo system. This one, I believe, was leaking quite a bit. Take a look at this. Ooh, that's the turbo intake pipe, and you can see that it wasn't intaking a lot of air, it was just intaking a lot of oil. I don't know how that happens. That's there's a leak somewhere, and also you can see that there's quite a big leak here from the valve cover. This entire thing is just caked in oil, and also if you follow this down, you'll see that the turbo itself is caked in oil. So down there, that's where the blow-off valve is. I guess that's what you would call it. That's the bypass valve, and that is just caked in oil. So I'm guessing the oil just kind of sat there and then collected and then just puddled up and just went every which way, because the bottom of this engine is just covered, and you can't see anything because this engine packaging is garbage. So this turbo is most likely toast. Now, when I got the car, Tyler actually did give me a new turbo. Well, a good turbo from a lower mileage car. And I could technically put that turbo on here, fix all the lines, fix all the electrical problems. There's some bad wiring there. Basically, get a new harness. I'd have to fix all the vacuum lines. And then hopefully this engine would make it without any internal issues, which I believe this engine does have. I know that the Wizard did a compression check, and he got compression low on one bank, which can mean that there's some timing issues, and the timing cover, to take that off, is a giant pain in the butt. Actually, the timing cover is not even on here. It's in the back of the engine because, I don't know, I think Bentley wanted to give themselves a challenge to see who can make the most complicated car. Who knows? I don't know. This makes no sense to me. Now let's go into the thing that you guys are probably wondering about, and I'm honestly wondering about it as well. Expensive parts. Dun dun dun! Oh So the expensive parts on this car are basically everything here, but some are more expensive than others. And I think this guy needs to get replaced. Let me take it off and let me show you what I mean. Okay. Oh, this was loose. All right, now it's ready to come out, and I'm gonna show you why I think this is, well, not ready to go back on the car. And let me just put this somewhere. Why is everything aluminum? So I think this should just kind of, think this should just kind of, any day now. And we will give it a little bit of a pry. Ow. Okay. All right, that wasn't so hard. Now, let's see why this thing is broken. Take a look in there, guys. That is a catalytic converter that is absolutely destroyed. You see how there's a bunch of elements missing, and it looks just really, really clogged. Let's see what the other side looks like. The other side looks okay, except there's some weird, looks like oil residue or something, but this is completely clogged, and this is just junk. And when I took that out, these were in here. This was just part of it. Yeah, so that is what a catalytic converter looks like when it explodes. So I need to get another one of those, and these are about, let's say, $600, because this was a particular model year. They only made these between 2004 and 2006, and then after that they did a different design. So this needs to go back on because I'm going to be selling the car, and I don't want to have any gutted cats or any emissions problems with anybody else, because I'm not going to be the end user of this car. But the one thing I'm really concerned about is, actually I'm not really concerned about, I'm more curious and concerned, is this turbo. And these turbos are actually quite similar to the turbos on my Lambo. These are Borg-Warner units, and they have everything sort of in-house. They have the blow-off valve and they have the wastegate internal. And you can see everything right there, the internal wastegate. And it doesn't seem like there's any foreign object damage, but, oh come on, is this aluminum too? Where's the steel? I want to see what the shaft play is. And if it's excessive, then we know the turbo's bad. I mean, it's a little bit. It's not that horrible. It really is not too bad. So the turbo might be good. Honestly, we could take these turbos off and put them on something else, because they will make a decent amount of power. I mean, this thing makes 550 horsepower at the crank, and I know that you can push these a little bit harder. But one of the things that is absolutely hilarious about this engine is the fact that everything is an engine out. Every repair seems to need the entire power unit out. And the number one thing, the very common issue with these early Continental GTs is this. You can see that someone has tried to fix this. This is a plastic line that is very susceptible to cracking and breaking, and then when that plastic line goes, there's an air leak, and then that air leak wreaks havoc on the electronics in the engine and doesn't run right and it doesn't idle right, and it gives you a check engine light. And the only way to do this properly is to take out the engine. Now, you can actually take out the steering rack, which is the steering rack is right here, and you can sort of epoxy everything that you see, and that's sort of what they did. This looks horrible. This looks really, really bad. Now what I'm gonna do, so the next owner doesn't have to do this ever again, I'm gonna replace this with some stainless steel braided line, and I'm gonna have some good hose clamps. And I'm gonna replace all this plastic line just going all the way up to where these metal lines are. These metal lines aren't gonna crack, so I'm gonna replace this janky connector. I'm gonna replace these plastic lines, this connector, all that stuff, replace it with stainless steel. And I'm also gonna replace this. This looks like a solenoid that has seen some better days. It looks like it's rusted and come apart, so that is likely broken. I'm gonna have to find out what that does. But coming down here, you'll see another thing that needs to get done while the engine is out, and it's this. It's It's these mounts. Yeah, this is not supposed to be like this not supposed to be this loose. Number one, it's because the bolt is super loose, and I don't know why the bolt is super loose. It just is. I did not remove this. So this was like this. And also you can see that the mount itself is perished. So the mounts for the transmission are gonna need to go, and the mounts for the engine, which are in there somewhere, are gonna need to be replaced. And those mounts are about $200 a piece, and these are about $150 a piece. So add that all up, and my bank account is not very happy. There's another tip that I got from Mark Guttersnake from AGX. He said to replace these guys. These are the EGT, the exhaust gas temperature sensors. And they actually seem like they can be changed when the engine is in, so I'm not gonna really worry about that. And I do have not only these, but the ones on the engine, the low mileage engine, so they should be okay. What I'm gonna really worry about is the O2 sensors, because the O2 sensors are super hard to get to, and they're really hard to take off, and not to mention take off these wiring clips and all that stuff to route it back into the engine bay. So I'm gonna have to get new ones, not only primaries, but the secondaries as well. And that's how, this is basically the entire emission system of a Bentley Continental GT. Also, I'm thinking of doing the starter, which is, actually, I don't know. The starter is an engine out job as well, and I'm trying to find it, and I can't find it. I think it's underneath here somewhere, and it does go bad. And when people take out the engine, they recommend replacing the starter because it's just gonna be a pain in the butt to get to. And this turbo, actually, it doesn't look very good at all. So you can see that it was at some point replaced, this line was replaced with a regular hose clamp and not one of the OEM hose clamps. So maybe there was a leak here. There definitely was an oil leak somewhere, because this is just full of oil and it's just dripping everywhere. So one of the culprits here could be this. This is the oil air separator for the passenger side bank, and they put some epoxy or tape or glue or whatever, and it just came apart. This is not looking very good. So I gotta order one of those. Those are nice and cheap. They're actually like 50 bucks. So here's what we're gonna cover in the next episode on this car. It's not gonna be the next episode on my channel because I'm gonna go, let's say, bouncing around from car to car. We need to get a lot of projects done in a small amount of time, so we're gonna kind of burn the midnight oil on all of them. But this needs to have the transmission taken off, so I need to take the engine up, I need to lift it in some way, then take the subframe out, so that needs to come down. I need to replace the motor mounts, take the transmission off with the torque converter, clean everything up as far as the transmission, the subframe, the suspension, all that stuff to make sure that it's not rusty like it is here. Then I can put on new brakes. I can put on, after I put on the new mounts, I mate the transmission to that engine. I put all the new vacuum hoses on. I put the new sensors on. I put the new catalytic converter on. And then while I put the old catalytic converter on, I put new O2 sensors in. And then I put it on the cart and we put it in the car. But actually before that, there's even more work to do there because I have to clean up everything underneath here, and that is going to be a pretty big job in itself. So there is a lot of work to do. Oh, also I need to replace all the radiators and heat exchangers and all that stuff in the front part of the car. So there's a lot to do in this car, and I hope you'll join me on in the next episodes, because right now without these parts I can't really do much of anything. If I take off the transmission, it's just going to be off. I don't have the transmission mounts. I don't have anything to really mount it to. I could do some cleaning, and I probably will do that off camera just for the interest of time. This is going to take a lot of time, so I should be getting the parts later on this week, and then we're going to get to basically just putting this in the car and then selling that car, because that car is now going to be pretty much perfect. So that's going to be it. I want to thank today's sponsor, Skillshare. Definitely go check them out in the link in the video description below. But I really hope that you guys stick around for this, because it's going to be a lot of work, and hopefully all the parts work, because that would suck if they didn't. But until next time, this is me reminding you guys that on cars like this that have expensive parts on their expensive engines, but we're gonna get them done anyway, you guys need to wrench every day.